Hey, good day to you. Well, usually when I sit here, I'm usually about to do an adrenaline rush into doing the groceries. But today, finally, after it seems a lot longer, but then I've really been waiting for this particular purchase on Temu. Of course, it's come from China. I'm a little apprehensive about having bought a musical instrument from China because I did buy one on impulse at one of the one of the malls in Cebu. I paid 8,000 for it, which is silly money. But anyway, when I got it home, it was what they call stuffed because it didn't really blow at all. Now, I contacted a distant friend of mine in the States, and he said that the Chinese were well known or infamous for not doing enough on the soldering, not doing a good enough job on the soldering. So what am I talking about? Musical instrument. The one that I bought was a trombone. I am an ex-trombone player, but I haven't played for many, many years. My first thought was that I would go back to playing the trombone. Now, I did this once before when I went to Florida. I hadn't actually played for many, many years, in excess of probably 15 years. But surprisingly, it didn't take me that long to get back into it, only weeks. But the difference was then that I was in my late, let me see, was I in my late 60s, so 60 approaching 70, and I guess comparatively youth was on my side. These muscles around here, which a musician would call the embouchure, I guess that's a French word, embouchure means the positioning and the skill set of these muscles, of which there are, I believe, several hundred, and they're not in sync with the words that I'm using right now. I just noticed that there's a sexy leg in the background draped over the couch that belongs to my dear wife Beth. So, to proceed, as distracted as I am, well, I faced the idea this time that I would have to do some work, and I knew that that was so. Unfortunately, my mouthpiece, which I had carried with me for many years, was lost in the destruction of our little red house, and it was never found. Unfortunately, again, it's difficult to explain to someone who is not a musician, is a hilltop farmer, what a mouthpiece is, a trombone mouthpiece. So it remains lost. Now, cut a long story short, I abandoned the Chinese trombone, which I have no way of getting that repaired here, and I purchased another one. This was a Vincent Bach, made I think in Taiwan. Not sure about that either, but I think it was Taiwan. So I didn't like it. Now, you can accuse me, and I won't protest. You can accuse me of blaming the instrument rather than my inability to just pick the thing up and start playing, and that would be fair enough. But when I was a professional musician for many, many years, earned my living as a trombone player, I had the finest trombone that you could buy, and it's difficult to walk yourself down once you've had the finest, like having a Rolls Royce and then ending up with a multi-cab, if you understand me. So the instrument that I bought, which is probably fine, but don't have my old mouthpiece, so this one that came with the instrument is quite big for me. It feels big. I'm sure that you're looking at me and saying, well, So what? Why can't you adapt? And I can, and it would take some work, and it would come. But I thought about it, and I thought, it's not the instrument that I want. And I had always fancied the idea of playing the flugelhorn. Now, flugelhorn, for you jazz enthusiasts out there, was made famous. Chuck Mangione played the flugelhorn, and my other favourite was Chet Baker, who was also a light voice singer, a singer that would suit jazz enthusiasts, not a high production singer. So I loved his style, I liked Chet Baker, and I liked his playing, and of course Chuck Mangione is an excellent player as well, something to strive for. So I decided that I would go for the flugelhorn. Now here's the catch. A flugelhorn probably will cost, let me see, I might be able to get a decent one, and when I finally get a flugelhorn, I will buy one that I'm going to be completely happy with. So I'm expecting to pay maybe 50 or 60,000 pesos, which is a fine investment for me. I would get great pleasure from finally playing an instrument which I had always had a kind of a yearning for. Now, in the old days when I was a musician, one of the guys, I was in one particular band, a big band, Ray McVeigh Orchestra and Singers in the UK, and Trevor Vincent was a friend and a colleague working in the band. He was a trumpet player, he was the jazzer, and he had a flugelhorn. But of course, like me, and a desire to play the best, he had a beautiful flugelhorn, and he very kindly allowed me to play it in the breaks. So I used to get onto his flugelhorn, and I was doing quite well. I already had some experience from the army on a valve instrument, so I knew roughly how it worked, and I was able to play. That was many years ago, too many years ago, but I'm determined to get back. Now, one of the things, this touches on another video that I have planned, and that is talking about aging with, what can I say, with style, courage, health, and a right attitude to be doing those things which will enable you to remain lucid and cognizant, quite the opposite of President Biden in America, so that you're still able to find your way on and off the stage. There are things that you should be doing. One of those things is to learn a new skill. So that's where my decision, that's what it was based on. When I got the instrument from Taiwan, the trombone from Taiwan, and I played it with this great big bucket of a mouthpiece, I really didn't feel very comfortable, and I didn't have the desire, the motivation to work very hard on that skill of regaining my skill of doing work on the trombone. I'm going to move the camera a little bit so that you're not as distracted as I am, as Beth Legg hanging over the couch behind me. So here we are, and I decided if I was going to have to put a lot of work in, which if I wanted to go back and play the trombone, I would be looking at making another investment of 50 or 60,000 or more, buying an American trombone. A King 2B is my not to be or not to be, a king on the numerals 2 and B is the instrument that I used to play, and a brass one at that. It's a slightly smaller bore than this thing that I have now. So I would be looking at spending a lot more money on buying a trombone. I would be happy with, and all for playing for myself, because I doubt that there's a band that I would be happy playing in my area. So it's goodbye to the trombone, I think. I may feel differently when I've started to play the flugelhorn, or for the moment the cornet, which brings me to my purchase now. Now I'll give you a quick look at the instrument in its case. I bought this on Temu for the ridiculous price of, you really won't believe it, I only paid 4,843 pesos for this instrument. It looks nice. Now, bearing in mind that it's been a long time, too many years, too many lifetimes if you're watching this video, for you, and for me to start playing this is going to take a lot of work. It sounds awful. I'm very discouraged, disappointed that I haven't been able to leap straight in and give Chuck Mangione something to worry about, but that's the reality of it. But that is the problem. That's the point of taking on something like this, is that I want to keep my mind alive. I want to have a disciplined approach to my day, and I will have to discipline myself for putting in a certain amount of time. Probably thinking like an old pro, I know that it's going to take work, and I'm prepared to bare my soul and have you laugh at the terrible noise that comes from the instrument at the moment. But just to explain my case so that you understand it, compared to the trombone, this is a cornet, and a cornet is a heck of a lot smaller than the trombone, and hopefully will require less wind, or certainly less breath control. So this is it. This is as close to a flugelhorn as I need to get for now, because at the moment it's going to be about regaining my breath control, breathing from the diaphragm and being able to do that, plus conditioning these muscles around the mouth, and that will take some time. So I'll put this back in its case for now. So for the moment I'm very pleased with the instrument for that ridiculous price, but I want to explain something to you, and this is why it will take me time in order to be able to develop the muscle skill here, because compared to the mouthpiece that goes into a trombone, this is a cornet or trumpet mouthpiece, and here's the difference. So now you can see this is the trombone mouthpiece. It's huge compared to this little thing here. Look at the tiny little hole in the cornet mouthpiece. Now if you look at this great thing on the mouth, so now even as out of practice as I obviously am, I still have something of a grasp on the notes and the positioning on the mouth, but of course that's, as we've discussed, is in the past now. So I'm going to show you the trumpet or the cornet mouthpiece. I think they're probably as close as they need to be for me to be able to develop a skill here and on this little cheapo instrument, ready for me to make a leap and have saved up the pennies to be able to buy a nice flugelhorn, or nice enough flugelhorn, for about 50 or 60,000 pesos. I should be talking a lot lower volume than that, because Beth might hear me and be horrified at the idea that I might spend 50 or 60,000 on a flugelhorn, because she doesn't know even what they look like or what they sound like. So we're looking at the trumpet mouthpiece. Still watch the comparison, it's huge. Now, if you look at the cornet mouthpiece on here, now I'll stop doing that because it drives the dog mad, okay? But it will take time to build endurance and skill using this tiny mouthpiece on this smaller instrument. What it will take will be practice every day. I will put in practice every day. A little bit like doing exercises, a little bit like doing weightlifting. You will gradually, or I will gradually, find the endurance and the muscular development and toning of the muscles here so that I can actually play. Now, the strange thing is that a peculiarity even of playing the trombone. Now this is, you would think that depending where the bell is, when you play the trombone, the bell is here if you're right-handed, which I am. See, so I would hear the sound that I produce coming out of the bell here and going to the left ear and a little bit less to the right ear. Now, I'm not ambidextrous, but you would think that I would be able to get the same sound even if I switched the instrument, the trombone, over to this side, which you can do quite easily. Now, it was a huge difference hearing the sound come on this side of the head so that it came in this ear. Only for interest am I telling you this. So, now I'm hearing, if you look at the profile, I'm hearing the noise is coming out. Let me see, where can I put it? Here I'm going to be blowing and the sound is going to be coming out here, which is on both sides, which it shows you how delicate the recognition system of the hearing and the brain and the mind, as you are practicing, all come in. So muscle memory will still see me in good stead, even with the tiny mouthpiece, but the chops, as musicians call it, embouchure is the fancy, who is my embouchure? We usually say the chops. So my chops have got some way to go, and it will require very agonizing for my ear, very agonizing notes coming out of the instrument. And I'm hoping that in putting some water through it and washing this out too, it will get rid of the awful taste, the awful metallic taste. Now, a subscriber was very kind, asked me if there was anything that I needed when he was coming from America, and I asked him if he would get a cream called Trombone. Now, you don't get, there's no prizes for guessing which instrument that cream was for. Instead, he brought oil, a special little container of oil, which has worked out very, very well. I didn't like oil for the trombone, but for this I'll be able to use the oil on the valves, which will be my finding out. Now, in order to get this thing into being in tune, there are tuning slides. Let me show you tuning slides. There's one here, look. It's a tuning slide there for this valve. There's a tuning slide here. And on the other side, there's a tuning slide there. If I can get it off. Not coming off easily. Maybe it's not supposed to, but there's another little slide there, look, that comes out. Now, you may know or not know that the basis of a brass instrument, both trombone or any instrument, is, even with, say, the guitar, the longer the string, the lower the note. So, when you blow through this, the greater putting down the valves means that you are shortening or lengthening the notes, the air that goes through the amount of tubing. And the more tubing, the lower the note. And that's the nature of a brass instrument. Oversimplified, of course, but then I'm sure you're not here for a tutorial from someone who is only just taking up the cornet to practice. So I will let you go now. I'm going to, as soon as I've cleaned up the instrument, I will make a video and I'll show the kind of challenges that I'm facing. Now, there is a man, and there's a man on YouTube who is an expert. He's a teacher. I've forgotten his name and details and contact information, but just in case you are a former musician who often thinks perhaps about getting back and playing the trumpet or the trombone, you may be interested in my progress. I'm 86 years old, and certainly the next big year for me will be in 90, when I'm 90. So I'm getting on for taking on a new skill, because you have to remain lucid, and that's part of the reason why I've gone back and said, what would I really like to do? When I thought of going back into music, I began to miss music. Sometimes when you are a pro musician, you can become quite jaded about music, especially if you spent most of your time, like I did, in what I call a top 40 band. It's no fun, believe me, it's no fun going in every night and playing Tie a Yellow Ribbon round the old oak tree twice or three times, even when it's at the hit parade. And so if you're playing the hit parade, it's work. Yes, there's a joy in playing the instrument, but it's work. And this is why musicians are a complete, they are unusual. They are gluttons for punishment. A musician will go in and play 6 nights a week in a dance hall, right, slugging through tunes like Tie a Yellow Ribbon and stuff like that. And then at the weekend, find his way into the room above a pub in the UK, room above a pub where what we used to call a blow band would be there. A blow band is a group of musicians who are gluttons for punishment and can't get enough, and they take themselves off on their day off and they go to the room above a pub, as I've said, and the landlord usually allows the band, the makeup band of anybody walking in can take a seat, and as long as they're able to play better music, or certainly more jazz oriented music. And often young composers, writers will be there with their charts, and they will hand the parts out, and you get to play something that is more interesting than Tie a Yellow Ribbon. Okay, now I know that by this time you'll be ready to cut down the oak tree, all because I've been bad-mouthing Tie a Yellow Ribbon, but you'll take my point. Now, what will I get out of this? Well, I'm not going to be suddenly hired to go back to the UK and play at the Albert Hall during the brass band competition, if it's still on. But I'll be able to play for my own benefit, for my own relaxation, and as long as I can make it so that during the learning period, which will be excruciating for anybody listening, if I can just defend myself so that I'm not put to death by those that I am mercilessly putting to listening to what I'm doing, I will make progress, and you will see for real if it can be done. Maybe I'll fail, but I don't think that I will, and you can make up your own mind. Probably after 2 videos you'll be saying, oh please spare us, and I'll understand if you don't watch. Okay, I'm off now. Please share this if you know a musician who is just dying to get back to it and he can't find the courage. Well, when he hears me fluffing and farting away on this cornet, which only cost 8,000 pesos, it might give him the courage to try again. Take care. Bye for now.